So as we ponder our new dual track curve, finally ballast in, some of my first experiments at terrain, I realize I need to finish these bridges here and here because I really want to get to this section of the layout. I also noted an episode or two ago that the curve obviously comes at the expense of a lot of table space or layout space. And we're going to address something for this back corner as well. And we're going to use some styrofoam and a hot knife to make that work. And I'll show you that. So when I first started putting this together, I realized I neglected to show you the part about putting together the base of styrofoam in which I made the hillside. All I did was take this styrofoam, which actually I think came from an IKEA purchase we made some weeks ago, and use my handy dandy construction adhesive, which I'm not a big fan of, and glue them together. Obviously I had a lot bigger sizes than this. I let that dry overnight or even a couple days so I could get back to it. And then I used a hot knife, a hot foam knife I guess you call it, which makes it really easy to shape and contour the different pieces. Once it was shaped to my liking, I started to cover it with plaster sheets and again let that dry. Now that we've got the styrofoam cut, we've added plaster sheets. I have a roll of it over here, and little by little we'll have this particular object take the form of kind of a rocky hillside, ridge, hilltop, if you will. And I'm going to have some help in doing this. So helping us out with this particular project is my daughter Elizabeth, who goes by Liz. She's going to help us out with putting some of the plaster sheets on. Say hi, Liz.
Hi.
What grade are you in?
I'm in 2nd grade.
What do you like doing?
Drawing and painting.
And helping Daddy on the trade table.
Haha, very fun.
All right, let's see what you got. There you go, just smooth it out. And the edges that are there, we're not gonna be a problem because we cover that with a little bit of shake on terrain, maybe a little bit of rock, and some moss, things like that. We'll be all set. And Lizzie will be able to have part ownership on the model, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, we'll just smooth out those edges and make the ridgeline look as realistic as we can. And this will make a nice backdrop for that corner. So our hillside elevation, after painting, even though it was with a flat paint, still has kind of this sheen to it. So over here I started to cover it with just some very fine-grained ballast to kind of give it like a rocky face appearance. And I did a little bit of the sandstone in here just to get that effect, and I'll build that out. And another portion, I went much lighter and brushed that ballast in, and I think it gives it a better effect while taking away from some of the sheen. Another one of my projects for Bridges and Ridges deals with spanning this particular rock gap. I've been working on is not quite a trestle bridge, but more of an overpass. Probably went past any railroad, administration safety guidelines, but it'll look pretty cool. So this is the start of it. And what I'm in search of right now are some ties to put across so that it looks a little more to scale. So what I'm trying to do is create a heavy-duty span, basically made out of railroad ties itself for heavy timbers. And this is modeled on actually a bridge that's behind our house by about 300 feet that carries the Canada Pacific Railroad. The other thing we have to work on is getting the abutments placed in here. It's a little bit steep, but we got some ideas to cut those in here in the very near future. The abutments for these particular bridges, these are just simple dowels that I've taken out of my back bench and again stained up and whatnot. I glued them just with this stick to keep some integrity, but they're really falling off. The other thing I struggled with again in my haste was removing some of the styrofoam underneath here in order to create that abutment that I want to make. I'll just plan on filling in my overdone cuts in here with a little putty or clay, something like that, just to fill it up. It's going to be covered with ballast and turf cover anyway, so it really won't matter. So on our base decking, and this certainly would not pass any Federal Railroad Administration safety or engineering design guidelines, but I'm not worried about that because I'm just having fun. Is I originally began using some of the same size dowel that I envisioned placing across the top of the deck in such a fashion. However, it just looked weird because I am going to include a piece of track on there. So I don't want to give up the built-in ties, if you will, to keep the integrity of the rail lines and mess with that. Maybe someday I'll make it really fancy, but you can envision a series of these. Obviously these are put together for another purpose, spaced all the way across here. It would look kind of goofy. So I wanted to get these to be a bit more narrow, or thinner I guess you should say. And even though I had tried hand cutting some of these things, both with a Dremel tool and with a saw, it was very labor intensive, and decided I was not going to take up all the time to do that. Luckily, through my local hardware, or correction, I should say, kind of hobby craft store, is I found these craft sticks, whatever they're called, and I think they're going to be just the perfect length. As you can see, as we put those on there, that will look a little better once we're done. Obviously, I'll square them off, stain them up, and then put them across the base bridge. So after some sanding, where I shaped these things and took off the edge because I did cheat and use the cutters to snip them apart, I just take my handy dandy stain stick and go ahead and apply a little stain. And actually I'm pretty happy. I've got a few done, and the first few have turned out rather dark, and that's just fine because I would like that appearance against the base of the railroad. So I think this is balsa wood, if I'm not mistaken, and the effect it's giving looks pretty good, actually. Bring over here. There's a couple of them I've gotten done so far. Of course, you can just keep applying more stain to get the same effect, I suppose, but just starting out, these are looking pretty good.